Good morning, everybody. What's today's topic on Coffee and Questions? We were talking about how to make shop stools, both welding and not welding. One way is to make them out of galvanized pipe, just using wrenches, taking your time and doing things correctly, and we'll go over that because people said, well, what if you don't have a welder? Well, how else can you do it? Well, you can make them out of wood, yeah. But I thought another fun project is to make them out of this galvanized pipe. You can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot. Also, if you have a welder, it's not that hard to do. I'm going to show you in the very beginning of this just some examples of shop stools. Then you can tweak it to your own design and liking, but I'm just going to show you some basics. It's not that hard to make a shop stool if you want to. You make it to the height that you want, which is nice. You don't have to make it to any standard. I mean, it's up to you to decide how tall you want it, how wide you want it, and what you want it to look like. Do you want it to have a back, or do you not want it to have a back? So let me change the picture, and like I've always said, we don't get into these long intros. Let's just get right after it and discuss the project, and I'll try to answer the questions as we go through them. Let me start off by talking about the welding part of it and how to weld your own shop stool. Here we go. Okay, here's a little bit of a fun way to start this. This is a little bit of a joke where he took a milk cart, glued it to a piece of scrap wood that's got some casters on it, and got an old seat off of an old chair, and this is how he made his stool. But we're going to go on and make something a little bit better than that, so here we go. Okay, let's take a look on the far left over here. Now, you can make these out of angle iron, or you can make them out of thin gauge tube steel. That's your choice. When you go out to your steel supplier, you can take a look around and see what they have in the way of cutoffs. If they don't have cutoffs, generally speaking, your angle iron is going to be the most inexpensive way to go, and it's a shop stool. So you don't need to worry so much about, how beautiful it looks when you're done, but you do want it to turn out good. But there's nothing wrong with angle iron. If you don't like that, go the tube steel route. Now, here are 3 pictures above me showing you different configurations on how you can do this, and then you attach your own wood bases to it. Now, you can use 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, whatever you want from out at any of the big box stores, and you can sand them down and make them look good and secure them to these stools. Now, let's take a look at the one over on the far upper right, and somebody says, well, I don't have a way to make round, pieces of steel. If you get like a thinner gauged, flat cold rolled steel out at that steel supplier, you don't need a lot of heat, sometimes no heat, to bend this circle. Then you can get a bucket, like one of those throwaways at like Home Depot, Lowe's, or anything that's round to your liking for a seat. And with clamps, you can start to bend it and go around it. Now, the other way to do that is you can cut a round circle, like out of plywood or anything like that. And then, yes, you can clamp it on your bench top, heat it up. Don't go overboard with the heat. I discussed this in one of my last videos. You just heat it up enough to keep bending it till you bend it in a circle. Use your 4.5-inch angle grinder with a cutoff wheel, cut it, put them together, weld that seam. Use your 4.5-inch angle grinder with a flap disc on it, grind it down, make it smooth and pretty, and then you've got your circle. So you can do it that way. There's a few different ways to create that circle. Then you've got the legs coming down all the way, and you can paint this any color that you want it. So I'm giving you examples so you can figure out maybe something that you like for your shop. Let me tear these down and let's go to another set of photos. Okay, here's 3 more examples of some that you can weld, and these are basic designs, like I said, so you can tweak these any way that you want. The one on the upper left, nice little touch. He used 2x4s. He used a torch, he burnt the wood, put some kind of a finish on there, and he bolted them screwed them from the underneath side up. So you can do that. It's a fast, easy project. He used some kind of a round steel. You don't have to. You can use square. You can use the wrought iron, whatever you want. And the same thing with these last 2 pictures, and then we're going to go to how you do it with galvanized pipe. So this right here will give you some ideas. You can make them totally square, sits right on the ground. These are fast. They're easy to do. Kind of a fun project. You can make it, what's nice about this is you can make it the height that you want. You don't have to just get some standard height stool. Okay, before I start the discussion on galvanized pipe and how to make stools, one of the people had kept suggesting, hey, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the height. This is a general chart that I found online. So I put it up here just to give you a rough idea. Now, what I would tell you is if you take a look at like the lunch counter one, or even the spectator one, this is kind of the height, depending on your workbench, that you want to end up making the height of that stool. So take a look at this you can kind of get a very generalized idea on how to do it. But I would tell you the fun part about making this stool for your garage is to make it the height that you want. So, you can go out and play around with the measurements until you come up with that height to where, your arm extends maybe elbow height where, it's coming across the table. Figure it out that way if you're that unsure. Then the width of this and stuff is up to you. It depends on the width of the seating that you want. But this gives you a general idea. Okay, let's move on to the galvanized pipe. Okay, so what if you don't have a welder? You can use galvanized pipe. We'll go over step by step, how to do this, but this gives you an idea in this picture. This is a fun project. Get your kids out in the garage. Get them involved. This doesn't require any welding. You're just going to use pipe wrenches or some type of wrenches to secure all these fittings. So these right here are very straightforward benches. There's no backing on them, but this gives you an idea of how to start or how to create that material list. This is real easy to do. All of these pieces are available at Home Depot, Lowe's, or your hardware store. This is one picture. Let me move forward and we'll continue the discussion. Okay, let's take a look at the one over here on the left. Again, this is real simple, straightforward piping. So take a look at how he did this. Now on the top of these, on all of these, they use flanges. That's what the picture on the far right is showing you, is this guy put this one together and he used flanges. Now you'll also notice he doesn't want to mark up his floor, so you can get these rubberized feet pads at any hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, to put on the bottom so they don't mark up your floor. But if you're out in the garage, you'll probably one of these pictures here on the left or in the middle, and it just has the caps on the bottom. And you can see you can configure these in different ways depending on what you want to do. Stop the video, go ahead and make a sketch and a material list, get your height, and you'll know how to go out and what to buy. Okay, let me change the picture and let's just keep the discussion going, and I'll answer some questions in just a little bit. Okay, before I go on with the stools, one of them said, what if I want to make something bigger? Okay, now this is a plan that I pulled off of online for a workbench. 36 by 78 is the top, but you can see how he made this base. If this is something you want to make for your garage, you just want to make yourself a craft table or something like that, this is simple, straightforward. It shows you the flanges and to make it out of 3/4 galvanized pipe. And right beside me here to the right, there's your material list. Okay, but the discussion's about stools, so let me move on. I only threw this up there because there was a question about can you make tables? Yes, you can. Okay, here's a couple of more. Look at the upper left. You can make this same way. You use the little 45s in there to create the backing, and you can create a backing for this, and you can use any kind of pine. You can use 2x4s, 2x6s. Take a look at the one in the middle. Now he used probably some kind of a pine board there for both the seating and the backing. Creates that arch going back by using 45s, 90s, wrapping it around, and this gives you an idea of your parts list. So any of these that you like, just stop, and you can make your bill of materials real quick and easy. Take a look at the one on the upper far right. You can even make a bench. You don't have to make a stool if you don't want to. Make yourself a bench for outside of your garage or anywhere. And this guy, when he did his, he used stain. He probably put a couple coats of polyurethane on it, and he spent a little bit of time. It looks pretty good the way he stained it. And you can do the same thing. These are not hard projects. Let me tear these down and let's put up a couple other pictures. I'll show you some artistic stuff now, I think, just for the heck of it. Hold on. Okay, this is a little bit of a twist to the stool thing, but this is an artistic way of doing something as a bottle holder or something like a little vat and a spigot. And you can take a look at this and you can figure out, hey, look at these pieces of pipe. I put them all together. It'll hold my Jack Daniels or my bottle of liquor. And it actually is functional. Look at the one in the middle. You can actually turn on that spout, fill your glass up. You could use wine. You could use pretty much any kind of liquor. You have to make that transition, though, from the bottle into it, and you'll have to figure out a way to plug it so that it only comes down and out that spout. I don't think it would be that hard to do or that hard to figure out. I thought this was rather artistic, whoever did this. The one over on the far upper left, of course, is just a bottle holder, but the one in the middle and the one on the right are actually, functional. They're like you'd see in a bar or something, I suppose. I thought the guy that did it did a good job. These are just artistic things that you can play around with if you want to do something besides just the bench. Okay, we're to the question and answer part of this now. And so the first question that popped up is, can you go through the steps on how do you prepare to paint? Okay, the first thing I would do is I get a razor blade or something like that, and I would scrape the labels off the pipe.
you're still going to have that sticky mess on there. So then you can switch over and you can use like a 3M pad, steel wool or something like that, mineral spirits or whatever you got around, and then I would clean that gunk off of there. Galvanized pipe comes with a zinc coating to prevent rusting. So what I do next, just as a precaution, is I take 150 grit sandpaper and I sand it. I just, I wrap it around there and I just go back and forth and I scuff sand it really well all over. And then I clean it off. Then I wipe it down with acetone, because on all steel, it's just what I do as a matter of protocol, or just one of the steps that I do. Then you're ready for painting. Now on something like this, I would shoot it with black primer. It's cheap. Just get some Rust-Oleum black primer, paint it with black primer, let it dry. Look for any drips, imperfections, or anything like that. You can always scuff sand those again, shoot them lightly, and when you're happy with it and the black primer, now you have a choice. You can use gloss black, and if you do, I use Rust-Oleum. It's just something I stick with. There's nothing wrong with Krylon. You can also, out at the big box stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, they have textured paint. They have textured black that looks really good on these. They've got bronze. They've got different colors to choose from if you want to pick a different color. Then just go over that primer with that. Now, when you're done, you can leave it alone. Or in the case of the textured paint, there's a couple of times I've shot it with Rust-Oleum gloss. And it looks really good. It depends. You could use gloss, semi-gloss. You can use nothing. It's up to you. Now, the other thing I do while you're out there, I get one of those little containers of Loctite and just put a couple drops around these threads of where all your fittings are. It'll help lock it in place and hold so you don't have any movement. This is a fun project. I mean, if you've got kids, you can tell them, hey, you want to make a bar stool today, for yourself, and then you make them for them. And so you get out there with some wrenches and you let them goof around and you help them out and you start teaching them how to use tools. And at the same time, you're making something useful for your garage and or for them when they're out in the garage with you. They'll enjoy making it. The materials are cheap. Like I said, you can use 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s. Look in the scrap bins for cutoffs. You can make the seat out of whatever you want. You can use pine. You can pick up some stain it, polyurethane, couple of coats if you want to. Whatever you want to do, the project's yours. Now, the other question, somebody related to the picture on the far right. So why has he got it mounted on this weird hinge-looking piece of wood? Well, this was supposed to be or is a fold-up table. Not something I've ever done. The reason why that picture's on here is to show you how he mounted the underneath side of this. So you'll do the same thing with a stool, or if you're going to do a table or a bench or whatever you're going to make, you can do it the same way. And like I said, the holes are kind of countersunk into those flanges, so the screws go in there nice and flush and tight, and everything looks good. Not that you're going to be looking from underneath, but it also works good for the pedestal part on the ground. Now, if you want, you can get the rubberized, ends for the legs, like you see in the picture in the middle here. I didn't do that. I don't make them that way because they're not used inside or anything, that's going to scuff. It's on a concrete floor. Okay, any other questions before we wrap this up? Okay, there's one other question here. How do I make it look rustic if I don't want to just paint it? Well, you got two ways you could do it. You could take this piping, after you scuff sand it, with the 150, like I was explaining, you can soak these in vinegar, but I would soak them overnight, pull them out, wash them off, and that's one way. Another faster way is after you've scuffed these and you've gotten that zinc coating off of there that I'm talking about, and you've scuffed them up real good. Take steel wool, scrub it down real good, whatever method you want to use. Okay, then be very careful, but you can use muriatic acid. Be very careful with this stuff. You don't want to get it on you in your eyes or anything like that. Use a paintbrush. You can dip it. You can coat them. You can coat them really good. You let them sit for about an hour, maybe 2 at the most. Then clean them off. These things will instantly start to rust out and give you that, that rustic look. And then you can shoot them with gloss or whatever you want to do after that. Now, that's a method I have not done. It's only a method I've read about, but they say it works really well on making, this galvanized pipe look rustic. Just make sure you go through all the preparation first. Get as much of that zinc coating off of there, as you can by sanding before you do it, according to what I read. The last question, I guess, or the last one I'll address, is somebody said, does it have to be 3/4? No, I did mine out of 1 inch. There isn't that much of a cost difference really when I got the pipe. I don't know if it was on sale or what. I just went ahead and did it out of 1 inch. But 3/4 is what most people make these out of, so 3/4 is fine. Okay, I'm the home handyman. I hope you folks enjoyed the video, and I hope you get out there and do something with your kids or make one for yourself. Give me a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next video, and don't forget to click subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.